we go. Let's have some fun today. Creative walk. Right here, right now, we're going to have this wonderful creative walk. I'm just trying to make sure I get the right view. Right? There we go. That looks good. So, I'm going back. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what the hell is going on in 2026. Well, for one, we're dealing with comparison culture like we've never dealt with before. And I'm going out on my creative walk today because it's a long topic to unpack. And I did smell a skunk about 5 seconds ago. Someone hit one. But here's the deal. Outside of it stinking really bad, that's okay. We're still going to remain with the topic right now. We're going to talk about why self-esteem is totally going downhill in 2026. And you know what? There's going to be times where I stop and totally pause and look around. I'll be able to do that, be able to enjoy the whole process here. People are losing self-esteem and losing confidence in 2026 because of comparison. So we're hitting a high level of comparison culture. And this comparison culture is ruining people's self-esteem and confidence. Now let's go over it. Let's unpack it. So there's 3 parts of the brain. Number 1, we have the mind-wandering ability, and that's what I'm going to call it. It's not a scientific term. It's the mind-wandering part of the default mode network of the brain. Then we have, in the middle, we have our inner critic and inner judge. And thanks to comparison culture and social media, that is increasing that aspect, that part. So the inner critic and inner judge is getting more prominent in our lives, much more prominent. Social media is not helping. And then the other part of the default mode network of the brain is the task execution. So the default mode network of the brain has 3 parts. It has that mind wandering, the inner critic and judge in the middle, and then on the far right has that task execution, the ability to execute what you can. So if you're a musician or an artist, there's a lot of power with mind wandering because that's where your creativity really goes. That's where your creativity is all about. You need to wander with the brain, with the imagination. That's where it's so crucial, it's so important. And we have to consider what our execution looks like because we're wandering so much with our brains, we're wandering so much that we're unable to make a decision. We're unable to go from imagination to task execution. Why is that happening? Well, for creative people, you need your mind wandering to become creative and to do things that are creative. But the inner critic and inner judge is getting more prominent in people because of that comparison culture. So some people could be extremely creative and not execute anything creative. They can't get to that task execution. That's where it becomes difficult. Take a look at those clouds. It's going to rain, right? It's definitely going to rain. So that's why people can't execute. Not everybody. We can't say everyone across the board. But the more people use social media, the more that inner critic and judge sounds off. And I mean, it sounds off like a military person. Sound off 1, 2, right? In that way. Oh, so that lost the base here. Let's see if we can adjust this a little. It's a bit high heavy, but it's working. So we have to take a hard look at what we can do. Like, okay, I'm talking about this great, but what can we actually do about it? Well, for one, judgment is hard, but compassion is also good for you because you have to start somewhere. You have to be able to begin somewhere. And here's what you want to remember. You want to become an independent creative thinker. Here's how you do it. Remember these words. Okay, your journey is not their journey, and their journey is not your journey. And you need to remember that. You need to remember that your path is your path. And nobody else is going to walk that path except you. And if you're constantly getting confused because of mind wandering, you're constantly getting confused by taking in more information, more choices, more podcasts, more things, but you're not able to execute. It's because that inner critic and inner judge is there. It's in the way. It's totally in the way. So self-esteem is dropping because people are comparing themselves a great deal. That's the first thing to understand today. That people are comparing themselves more than ever. That's having an impact on it all. And you're not weak, but you're having a constant exposure over social media to what other people are doing. So when you look at what they're doing, you compare it back to what you're doing, and you look at the areas of deficit with you, the areas that you need to work. But you don't realize that their journey is not yours. Your journey is not theirs. And when you understand that as an independent creative person, you start to realize that that's your power. Social media is making comparison nonstop. Like, some people might say, well, don't you have a channel? I was like, yeah, I do. It's not the fact that I'm the messenger. It's the fact of my message. I want to be able to reach people who can execute their creative ability and learn to understand themselves creatively. You are always going to be that person where other people are doing better because you're comparing yourself all the time to them. So anything you do is not going to help. Like, you feel like it's not going to help. But if you don't count your wins don't count. And people have difficulty counting their wins because they're comparing their wins to other people. So you see, you want to develop that independent creative thinking. That their journey is not your journey is not their journey. That's the first order, first rule. And the second rule is count your wins or your wins don't count. And what that means is you have to count the wins, even if they're not as big as your neighbor, even if they're not as big as other people. That's what's interesting. So what happens is you compare the wrong things. You see other people's best moments. You judge yourself using your own worst moments. And that's not a very fair mix. And it makes you feel like you're behind every single day, even though you're making efforts. You're putting out efforts and you're trying to create and do stuff. But you're back and forth between you, them, you on this comparison seesaw. So you're only seeing the highlight reels. You're not realizing that it's impacting yourself. It's causing self-doubt. And you need to see that. Now, another thing we want to think about it is it puts a lot of peer pressure, or we'll say, in this case, social media pressure on people. You can take peer pressure and apply it to social media and call it social media pressure. The amount of pressure that you get from other people. That's where it gets really unique as a name, is it's social media pressure. Back in the 80s and 90s, peer pressure was like, come on, do it, do this, do that, and people would just do it. But if nothing is wrong with you, when you start comparing yourself to other people, you're going to feel like something is off, and it's not very fair to you. It's not fair to you at all. And you're going to see just their best moments. you're going to feel like you're late in life. If you're a certain age, like 40, and you start looking at all the people in like your high school year, and they're all ahead of you, they're all making six-figure salaries, and you're working in kind of like a factory, and your wage isn't as high as theirs, and you start to compare yourself. You start doubting your own choices. You start questioning your own value. You forget that your journey is not their journey, and their journey is not your journey. That's where it gets valuable to understand. So that's the second rule, is to understand that. We have to be able to come to terms with the truth. Now, you have to start trusting yourself. Because if you're trusting others more than you trust yourself, then what that does is it puts more of that pressure on you. That's the thing. You apply the pressure on you inadvertently, accidentally, when you start to trust other people more than you trust you. So we can look to self-trust, that you need to develop self-trust. And the way you develop that journey is their journey is not your journey. Your journey is not theirs. You need to develop that. That's the power, the absolute power. If you could write that down, put it on, post it on your, bedroom mirror or maybe bathroom mirror, that would be good to have. So if you start trusting others more than you trust yourself, then what happens is you start to rely on what everybody else thinks. And then you're going to start to say, oh, well, theirs looks better. And that's going to make you feel smaller all the time. And you'll start to beat yourself up. That inner critic, that inner judge comes out. And if others move faster, you somehow feel slower. And then you start to say, I need to get in their head. I need to figure out how they think and figure out what they're doing and strategize. And not, again, it comes back to their journey is not your journey. You can strategize. You can adopt a mindset, a mental recipe. You can do that. But you still have to learn the value and truth behind the fact that your journey is not their journey. Their journey is not yours. So that's where it's important. Your own judgment will get weaker over time the more you just decide to compare all the time. That's going to get very frustrating. So what's the core message of today's cloudy day? You look at that cloudy day, today's cloudy day, creative walk. And that's what this is. This is a creative walk today. I haven't done one of these since last year. It's such a beautiful day. It's a little bit cloudy. It's all good. So the core message is the value of who you are is not based on comparison. And if you're going to constantly value your work, and that's another thing, people take their work and tie it to their identity really harshly, really tight. And then what happens is you measure your value based on what you produce. But it doesn't work that way. You have to be able to stand confident in your work, stand confident. You have to develop your own confidence in the creative work that you actually do. You have to develop that confidence that your journey is not their journey is not your journey, and your style of art and creativity is not theirs either. So your value is not based on comparison, and you're not supposed to measure yourself against everyone else. And if you do, it's going to hurt. And what comparison does is it totally stops and distorts how you actually see yourself. Because the real actual confidence, that starts when you begin to look at yourself as your own journey and understand that you don't have a scoreboard. There is no scoreboard. The value of who you are can't be compared. You have a basic human dignity. You have a right to be here. If you have a birth certificate, that's like a certification to be on a planet. You have the right to be here. You have the right to breathe and exist, basic human dignity. So you have to understand your self-worth, your identity, confidence, and most of all, your freedom. And that's pretty much it for today's show here. This is really good. I'm glad that it didn't come down pouring. You can see all the way up there what that looks like. And I'm just going to end the show right here. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have some fun. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.